Picture this. You're 8 years old, holding a tennis racket for the first time. The weight feels foreign in your small hands. Your coach is shouting at you again and again. You miss the ball more shouting. You want to cry, but you can't. Because in China, champions don't cry. This was Li Na's reality. I didn't choose this, she would later confess. I started playing tennis when I was 8 years old, but here's the thing. That'll shock you. This girl, who was forced into tennis, would go on to become the first Asian player to win a Grand Slam singles title. 2 Grand Slams, actually. She reached the top 3 in the world. And yet, for years, she absolutely hated the sport that made her famous. How does that even happen? How do you become a legend at something you despise? Let me take you back to 1990s China. Li Na wasn't born into tennis royalty. She was just another kid from Wuhan, a sprawling industrial city where dreams were practical, not magical. Born on February 26, 1982, Li Na was about to become part of something much bigger than herself. But she didn't know that yet. Her childhood wasn't filled with tennis camps and private coaches. It was filled with something much harsher. When she was almost 8, Coach Xie Xiao from the Wuhan Youth Tennis Club persuaded her to switch to tennis. But here's where it gets dark. Her instructors taught tennis through negative reinforcement. It would affect Li's confidence for years to come. Imagine being a child and having your every move criticized. Every swing wrong. Every step misplaced. Every breath somehow not good enough. In her 2013 autobiography, My Life, Li described her love-hate relationship with tennis during those early years. She blamed her lack of confidence and mental struggles during high-pressure matches on the negative reinforcement she received from coaches. But here's what's incredible about Li Na's story. She didn't just survive this toxic beginning. She used it as fuel. In 1997, Li joined China's national tennis team, and this is where her story takes a fascinating turn. Because in China's state sports system, athletes weren't just players. They were products. Their careers weren't their own. Their prize money. It went to the state. Their schedules, their training, their entire lives controlled. Li Na was trapped, and she knew it. For years, she played by their rules. She won matches, climbed rankings, and represented her country. But inside, she was dying. The sport she'd been forced into was consuming her soul. Piece by piece. Then came 2002. Li Na did something that shocked everyone. She quit tennis. Just walked away. At 20 years old, when most players are just hitting their stride, Li Na said goodbye to professional tennis. She enrolled at Huazhong University of Science and Technology to study journalism. Can you imagine the headlines? The pressure from officials. The disappointment from family. But Li Na didn't care. For the first time in her life, she was making her own choice. For 2 years, she lived like a normal person. She studied. She dated. She figured out who Li Na was when she wasn't holding a tennis racket. And slowly, something interesting happened. The hate she felt for tennis. It started to fade. Not because the sport changed, but because she did. In 2004, Li Na made another shocking decision. She returned to tennis. But this time, it was on her terms. Well, sort of. The Chinese sports system was still controlling many career choices for their athletes. Li was unhappy with these constraints and wasn't afraid to voice her feelings, challenging the norms. She became known for speaking her mind, something that made officials very uncomfortable. But Li Na was done being quiet, done being controlled, done pretending that everything was okay when it wasn't. Single quotes. The breakthrough came after the 2008 Beijing Olympics. Chinese tennis players were finally allowed more freedom in their career choices. Li Na could keep more of her prize money. She could choose her own coaches. She could, for the first time, truly control her destiny. And that's when the magic happened. 2011. Roland Garros. The French Open, Li Na had made it to Grand Slam finals before, but this time felt different. She was 29 years old. By tennis standards, that's practically ancient. Most players have already retired or are thinking about it, but Li Na, she was just getting started. The final was against Francesca Schiavone, the defending champion. The pressure was immense, not just because it was a Grand Slam final, but because of what it represented. Li Na was trying to become the first Asian player to win a Grand Slam singles title. She was carrying the hopes of over 1 billion people. But here's the beautiful irony. The girl who once hated tennis, who had been broken down by negative coaching, who had walked away from the sport entirely, she won. Li Na captured the 2011 French Open, making history. The moment was electric. Not just for Li Na, but for all of Asia. She had broken a barrier that many thought was impossible. But for Li Na, it was about something deeper. It was about proving to herself that she could succeed on her own terms. But the story doesn't end there. Because winning your first Grand Slam is one thing. Proving it wasn't a fluke, that's something else entirely. 3 years later, at the 2014 Australian Open, Li Na did it again. She won her second Grand Slam title. At 31, she was still defying expectations, still proving that age is just a number when you're playing for the right reasons. Li Na reached the top 3 in the world rankings, cementing her status as one of the greatest players of her generation. But more than that, she had become a symbol of rebellion, of choosing your own path, of turning hate into love. Her success changed everything for Asian tennis. Suddenly, kids across China, Japan, Korea, and beyond started picking up tennis rackets. Not because they were forced to, but because Li Na had shown them it was possible to make it to the very top. Li Na's press conferences became legendary. She was funny, honest, and refreshingly real in a sport often filled with robotic media training. When asked about her success, she didn't give typical athlete answers about hard work and dedication. She talked about her husband, her life outside tennis, her struggles with confidence. She made tennis human. But every story has an ending. And Li Na's came sooner than anyone expected, plagued by a knee injury. Li Na announced her retirement from professional tennis on September 19, 2014. She was ranked world number 6 at the time. Her remarkable career came to an abrupt end at age 3. The timing was heartbreaking. Li Na was still playing at an elite level. She could have won more tournaments, more Grand Slams, more accolades. But her body had had enough. The years of negative training, the physical demands of professional tennis, the constant pressure, it had all taken its toll. But here's what makes Li Na's retirement beautiful. She walked away on her own terms, just like she had returned to the sport on her own terms, just like she had lived her career on her own terms. In her retirement speech, Li Na was characteristically honest. She talked about the pain, both physical and emotional, that had brought her to this decision. But she also talked about gratitude. Gratitude for a sport that had given her everything, even though she had once hated it so much. The transformation was complete. The 8-year-old girl who was forced to hold a tennis racket, who was shouted at by coaches, who was told she wasn't good enough, she had become a champion. Not just in tennis, but in life. Li Na's legacy extends far beyond her 2 Grand Slam titles. She showed that it's possible to transform a love-hate relationship into something beautiful. She proved that speaking up for yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, is worth it. She demonstrated that success means nothing if you're not true to yourself today. There are tennis academies across Asia bearing her name. Young players study her matches, trying to emulate her powerful ground strokes and mental toughness. But the real lesson of Li Na isn't found in her technique or her trophies. It's in her courage to be authentic, in her willingness to walk away when something wasn't serving her, in her ability to come back stronger, in her choice to turn resentment into resilience. My name is Li Na from China, where that name is extremely common. The truth is, I didn't choose this, she once said. But by the end of her career, Li Na had made that common name extraordinary. Not because she was forced to, but because she chose to, the 8-year-old girl who hated. Tennis had become the woman who changed it forever. Sometimes the things we resist most become the very things that set us free. Sometimes the path we never wanted to walk leads us exactly where we need to be. Sometimes hating something is just the first step to mastering it. Li Na's story reminds us that it's never too late to rewrite your relationship with anything in your life. That success without authenticity is hollow. That the greatest victories often come after the deepest struggles. She won 2 Grand Slams. She reached the top 3 in the world. She faced family pressure, cultural expectations, and a system designed to control her every move. And through it all, she found a way to turn hate into love, resentment into respect, obligation into opportunity. That's the real championship. That's the victory that matters most. Li Na didn't just win tennis matches. She won herself back, and maybe that's the most inspiring victory of all. What did you think about Li Na's incredible journey from hating tennis to becoming a Grand Slam champion? Have you ever had to overcome a similar love-hate relationship with something in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Luminoir for more untold stories of triumph, struggle, and the human spirit that drives us all.